Okay, so we're going to continue discussing truth tables. We're now going to look at two examples where we're asked to construct a truth table where the problem itself is a little bit more complicated. The thing that makes it more complicated is that we have three simple statements instead of two. So instead of having a P and a Q, as we've seen in the previous examples, we have a P, a Q, and an R. Now, adding the R into the problem doesn't make the problem any harder. It just makes it longer. Okay, it takes me a little bit longer to work it out, but the concepts themselves are the same. All right, so I'm going to begin by writing a P column, a Q column, and an R column. And these will be our standard columns every time we work a problem that has the three simple statements. Now, if you remember what we did with the two simple statements, underneath the P, we had 4 rows, and we did 2 trues and 2 falses. So we did half of them true and half of them false. Here, underneath the P, we have 8 rows. I'm still going to do half true and half false, which means that I'm going to have 4 trues and 4 falses. From there, we're going to kind of cut things in half. So instead of doing 4 and 4, when we move to the Q, we're going to do 2 and 2. So I'm going to do 2 trues and then 2 Fs, 2 Ts, and 2 Fs. And then finally for the R, again, we're going to sort of cut it in half what we're doing. So we're not going to alternate every 2, but we're going to alternate every 1. So I'm going to just do true, false, true, false, true, false, and true, false. Now again, this is considered our standard setup for a problem that has 3 simple statements, P, Q, and R. So this part won't change when we work the next problem. It'll be exactly the same. Okay, so let's look at our problem now. We want to do the same thing. We want to look at the left side. Now, the left side is done because I have a column for the R. So I can go ahead and say left side is finished. I don't have anything to do there. All right, let's move on and look at the right side. Now, I have the P column and I have the Q column. But what I don't have are those 2 columns together with an OR in between. So I'm going to make that my next column, P or Q. Okay, so first we're going to copy. So underneath the P, I'm going to write down all of the P statements. So that is 4 true values followed by 4 false values. Then I'm going to write my symbol for OR. Okay, then I'm going to do the Q. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to copy all of those Q values underneath the Q. So that's true, true, false, false, true, true, false, false. Now I need to figure out what each of these is equal to. So these are my or statements. Okay, so if you think about your or statements and you think about your or chart, okay, so here's my or chart. The or statements are true in almost every case. And so the way I like to remember the or statements is to say that it's true as long as there's any bit of truth in the statement. So for example, if there's a T on the left-hand side, it's going to be true. So there's a T here, it's going to be true. There's a T here, it's going to be true. The only case where it's not true is where there is no truth on the left-hand side. All right, so with that in mind, let's go back to our problem and let's fill them in. So any bit of truth is going to give me a true statement. So we'll have true, 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 and then these last two, because they don't have any truth on the left, will be false. And now we've taken care of the right-hand side of the original problem. So we have the left side, we have the right side. The final step is to put it together as the entire thing. So I'm going to do R, I'm going to do my double arrow, and then my P or Q. Now again, we need to start with some copying. So I'm going to copy underneath the R all of the R values. So that's going to be true, false, true, false, true, false, true, false. And then I'm going to put my double arrow. And then we're going to copy what we came up with for the P or Q. So that is going to be these answers right here. So I'm going to copy those over. Okay, and then I'm going to put some equal signs, and then we need to get our final answers. So these are all if and only if statements. Remember that the only way that a statement that is if and only if is true is if we have the same two things on the left. So two trues or two falses would be true. All right, so going back to our problem, this one would be true because it's two trues. This one would be true. This one and this one. And the other ones would be false. And remember that this final column is the solution to the problem. Okay, we're going to do one more of these with the three simple statements. So again, I'm going to set it up the same exact way. I'm going to do a P column, a Q column, and an R column. In the P column, I'm going to do 4 true values and 4 false. Then I'm going to move to 2 and 2. So 2 true, 2 false. 2 true, 2 false. Then I'm going to move to alternating by ones. So true, false, true, false, true, false, true, false. And again, what we have on the screen right now is standard for all the problems that have a P, Q, and an R. All right, so let's begin by working on our left side of the problem. So I look at that and I see that I have a Q column, but I don't have a negation of Q. So that's going to be the first thing that I'm going to work on, is the negation of Q. So remember, in order to do the negation of Q, you're going to take the Q values and you're going to switch them out. So wherever there's a true, there's going to now be a false. So this will become false, false, true, true, false, false, true, true. Now the next thing I notice is that I don't have a negation of R. I have the R column, but not the negation of R. So I'm going to add that in next. So now I'm going to take these R values and I'm going to do the opposite of these values. So instead of starting with a true, I'm going to start with a false. So I now have done the negation of Q, the negation of R. I now need to put them together, right? So that needs to be my next column. So negation of Q and negation of R. And that will finish up the left-hand side. Now again, we want to do some copying. So I want to copy under the negation of Q, I want to copy these values down. So I'm going to have F, F, T, T, F, F, T, T. I'm going to put my and symbol. And then I need the negation of R. So I'm going to come back over here and get these values and copy them. So false, true, false, true. All right, so now I need to write the answers for these 8 statements. So these are and statements. Remember that the only way an and statement can be true is if both statements are true. In every other case, an and statement is false. So we have 2 of them where it's true and true, and then all of the other ones will be false. And you can check that back at looking at your table if you need to. So now I've completed the left-hand side. The right-hand side is already done because I have a P column. So the only thing that remains for me to do is the entire problem as a final step. So this last one, I'm going to do the negation of Q and negation of R, arrow, and P. Now again, we're going to need to do some copying. So for this part that's in parentheses, I'm going to copy the answers that I got when I worked out that previous column. Then I'm going to put my arrow. And then I need to copy the P column. Okay, so the last thing I need to do now is I need to find the answers for these expressions. So these are if-thens. Remember, there's only one case where an if-then is false, and that's this case. An if-then is only false if you start out with true. If true, then false. And all the other cases are going to be true. And again, check back into your rules if you need to. If you can't remember, then check back into your rules. And then remember that the final column is the solution to the problem.